So this is a basic scene that I made in Blender, and I'm just gonna break it down a bit. Now, everything here I got off Blender Kit, obviously. Same goes with the HDRI, just a office HDRI, I just liked it. And I wanted to make this scene for a bit of photorealism. Won't talk about that. And because I wanted to show this off, a model I made of the Cmf Watch 3. So I think so. I got this off. First part was positioning this, so I had to move a lot of things around. I wanted it to be somewhat central, but not all obviously be in the complete center, because then it would look very staged. It still looks pretty staged here, but it's a good balance. Similarly, if I remove every single one of these, it gives off too much light. There's not a lot of contrast, and I just want this area to be darker. So I started by adding planes to act as blockers. Even here, if I go this even a bit below, I think it changed. Okay, it doesn't change that much, but everything has somewhat of a little bit of purpose. The main thing that I liked very much here was the depth of field. Put the depth of field, mess with the f-stop a bit to check which would work, and I landed on 4.9 and basically got the scene. So I also had to mess a bit with the HDRI to get the lightning to come from this side. I'm hoping it's coming from this side or whatever. It does come. And similarly, I really like this model because it had a lot of clutter, which is pretty useful when you're trying to get photorealism. And that's basically it. The model itself is pretty basic. I did not go for very much details. There is detail on top of this, but it's only very much appearing when it's on a close-up. Then I had to do a bit of compositing, since I just learned the compositor a bit ago and I really like it. So I'll basically show the output first. What I did was darken it a lot, add a bit of bloom and blooms through the glare node, etc. Now it doesn't seem to be showing up here, which is probably just, yep, it shows now. So this is my compositor setup. This is just the compositor. This is an image editor, and I just go here and go to the viewer node. I normally will use a lot more, but this is just a very quick one, and adding more might do more harm than good. First was bloom. I can't go with this to 0 because it's a bit too bright. So I just messed around with it. Then a 1.1. Obviously, you don't want this to be very shiny. I wanted the watch to stand out, and it does. Then came with the color correction. I don't know much about color grading, but I just first messed with the offset to see which are considered the highlights, which are considered what. And once I realized that, I started messing with the gamma contrast and gain. I don't really touch saturation much. Similarly, nearly everything is considered shadow, so I didn't mess with that, and nothing is considered in the highlights. Almost nothing. Then for further fine tuning, this is basically, so I'll actually go one by one. So this was after the glare. Then with the color correction, I wanted this part to be brighter, this part to be darker. I somewhat achieved it. Honestly, that side is not much darker, it's a bit lighter. But the main goal was making this lighter because it comes here and it would probably highlight this a bit more. Obviously, it's completely black, pretty dark. This is supposed to be rubber, so it's absorbing most of the light and not being very reflective. A bit problematic, all things considered. And then with the color balance, I just wanted to make everything a bit darker again. Nothing much done here except just making everything darker. Going low on the gamma, increasing the gain, because gain here just increases the brightness of the entire picture. And even this looks pretty nice, but that's a bit too bright. Not what I'm going for. And then blur. Since I already had depth of focus, I wanted this to be a bit blurred, so I just did 2. You can see how the blur works. You can go directional blur too, but 2 is a nice middle ground. You can see it's blurred a bit compared to 1, but anything above like 3, it makes the text hard to read and it's a bit too obvious in my opinion. I just picked all these values up because I was doing the animation where I did a lot of compositing in the end. So yeah, basically my main goal was to add a lot of clutter. The clutter can show imperfections. Everything was rotated a bit. I brought out the chair to kind of cover the camera a bit. I placed the calculator over here to make use of the empty space which was overall here. Move the camera up to the keyboard because it kind of seemed weird with the mouse being down or up or somewhere else other than near the keyboard. And yeah, obviously there's a bit of imperfection here where the uh, plane kind of shows, but that can be remedied by just making this plane black. I'm pretty sure that should fit. Actually, I wonder what that is. That's, yeah, it's something else. It's not that. It's the edge of this. Okay. Yeah. I can actually just fix this by moving this back and moving it front to make it more apparent. But yeah, it was a pretty simple scene. Projects like this just help me with lighting a bit. I did add this. I don't think it really had much of an effect on the final render, except adding a bit of light over here. I just wanted this to be a bit more prominent because without it, it doesn't really show much. Obviously, another thing that I could do is by adding a lot more shininess to everything by going into the shade editor. I got these shaders also off Blender Kit. It was a very quick project and nice. Obviously, you can mess with the roughness and everything, but I'm not gonna. I'm also gonna try to make a somewhat of a breakdown of some of the scenes that I made in the animation, so stay tuned for that. This is a pretty basic scene. It also kind of shows the power of the Blender kit add-on. Everything nearly comes from here. I just made the model myself. Most of the basic shaders I got off it and then had to modify a bunch because most of these are very light. I had to go through a bunch of them. Even here, I shouldn't really done this completely black because nothing is truly black in the real world. I mean, fully black. And even that looks a lot better. Just kind of raising the bar a bunch, a bit. You can also mess with the metallic if you sometimes just want roughness. I mean, shininess. But that doesn't look really much like a rubber. So yeah, this was the entire show. The entire thing that I made.